Hi, I'm Dr. Greg Bliss, and this is an introductory video for prospective trustees and members of our board dealing with the vision for Christos International in regards to education. Kind of just a general summary of what we've been commissioned by God to accomplish. We oftentimes ask the question as academics, from where do we educate? And our quick answer is from the Bible. But there's a problem with this answer, right? What do you mean from the Bible? Abraham journeyed into Jerusalem from Ur of Chaldees. He left the world and went to the Promised Land. Paul the Apostle left Jerusalem to go into the Greco-Roman Empire. The Apostle John had a revelation on the island of Patmos about bringing the gospel to the ends of the world, and then the end should come, and what that apocalyptic vision would look like. And the spreading of the gospel has continued since that day to reach all the nations of the world. So we ask the question, from where do we teach? Do we teach from the kingdom perspective? Do we teach from the Greco-Roman perspective? Do we teach from the spiritual journeying perspective? Well, as academics, there are basically three cities that are used to kind of set a paradigm for teaching: Athens, Jerusalem, and Berlin. And there's oftentimes a debate, what does Athens have to do with Jerusalem, or Jerusalem have to do with Athens? And these constructs, these paradigms of teaching need to be understood. Athens basically is a value-based education. It takes knowledge and links it into virtue. So the classical form of education always aims at knowledge in regards to virtues: wisdom, beauty, etc., goodness. All of these are constructs in which education is to occur into the formation of virtues under the classical model. And there are pedagogical, different teaching methods to accomplish that. Jerusalem is Christ in us, but the distance between Athens and Jerusalem is best phrased by Augustine in our credo for our schools, is by faith we have understanding. So faith has to play a role in this on top of the classical formation, and it is Christ in us that's being formulated. Now, faith operates by love. Right, it operates in the context of love. So you have to have a safe, nurturing environment for your kids to really learn. And so all of our schools have a safe Christian learning environment. But we also require the parents to maintain their responsibility to steer the ship. This is a biblical construct. It is the parent's responsibility. And despite the different levels of participation that a parent may have, they're still the responsible moral agent for the moral formation in the child. No one can take that from them. But we design our curriculum to subordinate itself to the image of God in the individual student, the Imagi Dei, the image of God. And we do this through a thing called personal education plan, which formulates the curriculum around the individual student. As opposed to the individual being subordinated to a curriculum, we subordinate the curriculum to the individual. And just as the child is to remain subjected to the parents in the Christian values formation, we don't follow a valueless education as all government schools are required by law to do. We don't seem to understand that they cannot assert any value, because then it's no longer a secular education. And that's true. The value is that everybody has their own values, thus it is a valueless education. And there's an uprising now happening amongst Christians all over the country concerning gender issues and the valuelessness that public, or what we call government education, provides. So as we go forward now, we have to understand we live in the 21st century, and we can't just react to the present constructs of education and go, oh, let us go back to the day when we all were chummy in classrooms together. There's technology that has to be embraced. And that change is very similar to what happened in the time of the Gutenberg Press. Instead of going up to monasteries and having to have very few people being educated, we now have the capacity to bring education to a whole different level than we have before. Just like the Gutenberg Press did, taking knowledge out of the monasteries and putting it in written texts. So this change, it's kind of like the difference between a telegraph and a telephone. Telegraph gives you some information, telephone gives you a lot more because you can hear the inflection of the voice. So I'm going to give you an example now in a short lecture of A Tale of Three Cities concerning education. And this is a very simple lecture format, but there's three things I want you to notice in it. One, that, I'm a talking head, which I, somewhat enjoy. But in that, there's this inflection in my voice. There's the closed captioning in the bottom, which gives you the content in written form. And then there's a kind of stunning and stirring visual element behind. Now, sometimes that visual element can be distracting, but sometimes it can be just edifying. The purpose here is to show that this technology is very easy. And you're talking to the student on 3 or 4 different levels now, not just on text, but the text is available. So as we go forward, this is our goal. When we're concluded with the Tale of Three Cities, I'll get back to how you can participate in helping us change education in the United States of America. Thank you. Jerusalem is the source of where we find the origin of our faith, from the time of David to the time of the First Temple period, even into the time of the Second Temple period, and when Jesus Christ walked the earth. And so technology plays a major role in our educational methodologies. We have LMS systems, learning management systems, that allow us to produce a very efficient model of education and create a mastery-based educational program that is cost-effective. So we bring these three elements together, each one of the cities, and hopefully we will obtain the objective of an education under Christ. Well, we don't have all the answers, but we know the right direction. And the right direction, of course, is Jesus Christ. So I hope you understand our rootedness is in Jerusalem, but we also have 2 other cities to visit, Berlin and Athens. And then we have Berlin. And Berlin is a city in the middle of a continent where there's much river traffic over the years that has happened, many factories, many industrial aspects, beauty of rivers and streams surrounding the city, but it is a place of efficiency. And this is where our charter management organization finds its origin, is in the efficient model of administration, and where our mastery-based education and our utilization of technology allows us to measure each student's performance and allows them to perform in each subject at their own rate. And that is very important to our model to represent the Imagi Dei in man. And finally, we have Athens, which represents the classical form of education. And maybe the best representation of this is in the Parthenon, where you have these pillars that hold up virtue in the representation that we hold it. And in this, virtue is lifted up, wisdom, goodness, these constructs are lifted up, supported by the pillars. That's the form of classical education. Knowledge has something to hold on to. The house just isn't filled with furniture. The rooms are built upon a solid foundation. The solid foundation is Jesus Christ. But these pillars of knowledge, it's how we construct the knowledge that's important. And that's how the classical element, it plays in our curriculum. And we appreciate your participation. Welcome back from our Tale of Three Cities. The question remains, is it realistic to suggest that we can have our educational focus coming from 3 different loci? can we really use the wisdom of Athens and the spiritual formation of Jerusalem and the technology of Berlin? Is this legitimate? Well, I believe, and we believe at Christos International, that all truth is God's truth, and that by faith we obtain understanding. And faith becomes the foundation stone in the sense that we require all of our teachers and all of our faculty members and all of our staff to engage with a biblical worldview. And that is in the totality of all of our studies. So that biblical worldview requires that you understand the nature of creation, the fall, the redemption of Jesus Christ, and the future glorification. Those are non-negotiables. In spiritual formation, we believe in the death, burial, and resurrection. And how does that apply into our lives as individuals as we follow Christ in baptism? These are foundational truths that we do not discuss or argue. We assume and we walk in. And the highest value is love. And that must permeate the entire fabric of our school. Our schools are all safe, they are secure, and they are filled with love and prayer. And that's the best possible environment for children to learn in. But we don't take them away from technology. We allow technology to do what it is meant to do, which is to assist us in taking dominion of the earth. In the lecture I just gave on the 3 cities, you saw a closed captioning. Well, that's part of what produces a good educational model for a lecture. You saw some you saw some very nice imaging maybe. Some of it might have been distracting, some of it may have been appropriate, but I was trying to show you what can be done in a moment's notice now using YouTube and the internet. So, do we shy away from the future, or do we embrace the possibilities that are in front of us? We hope you will continue to join us as we move forward together in this project that God is establishing. And I want to thank you all for being here and listening to really what I have to say and what Christos International is all about.